but I really need to make this oatmeal because I have a lot of berries. I had an event this past weekend and I bought a lot of extra things. And now that I have them, I see that I'm not going to be able to use them all just by having a few bites here and there. So I thought it would be good to make something with these different ingredients I have. So the one thing I'm having, I see some people are joining me already. Hello, Tila Isik. I'm one of my fellow culinary school students from back in the day, back in 2008 and 9. I can't believe it was that long ago. So I'm going to get my ingredients ready. And one thing I like about this is it's really simple. Like I was showing you my tray, it's oats, a little bit of date syrup, cinnamon, baking powder, almond milk, and blueberries. And it's baked in the oven, and that gives it kind of an extra nice texture. I'm going to get my almond milk out, or you could use soy milk, whatever you like. And this is a small amount. I'm only making enough for 2 servings. And I have these, they're little casserole dishes. Let's see, it doesn't really say how much it holds, but they're good for like 1 serving. And they're kind of wide, so it's a shallow serving instead of a deep ramekin. Excuse me. Anyway, I usually would make this in these kind of deep 1-serving ramekins, but then the ramekins tend to overflow. So I thought I'd try something different. So we're just going to put a bunch of stuff in the bowl, and then we have the option. I'm going to use the bowl. I'm going to wash my hands real quick. I'm going to use the bowl this time. And in the past, though, what I have done is I've used the blender. So if you want, you can blend all of this stuff up. And that's another way to do it. But this time I'm going to use the bowl. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my oats. I'm using a cup of oats. And then I'm using a cup of my almond milk. Did I put this right here? All right. So let's see. Cakes Shop. Okay. I bet that's Oklahoma. Joined us. Then I'm going to put 1 cup of the almond milk in here. If you do this in a blender, what happens is it becomes like a cake. So some people like that. I do, but it's not necessary. I'm not using a banana this time, but you can use a banana if you want to. Sometimes I kind of have gotten tired of putting bananas in baked goods a lot. And bananas are for sweetness and sometimes a little extra flavor. So if it calls for bananas and you don't want to put the banana in something, you can always just put in some extra syrup. So I'm going to put in a couple of tablespoons of date syrup, like 2. I'm just kind of eyeballing it because it's not the kind of thing that really matters. So that's going to make it nice and sweet, having that little bit of date syrup. And this is something that you can throw together really fast on a rushed morning, as long as you're going to be around to, get it in and out of the oven. It doesn't really take long. Some cinnamon. This is a 1/2 teaspoon 2 times. I'm doubling my recipe for 1. Baked oatmeal for 1. I'm making it for 2. And the cinnamon is in here. And then we're going to put in a teaspoon of baking powder. And that will help it get a little bit puffy, which makes it good. Christine, Dorothy. So I'm glad to see some of you coming on. Appreciate you watching. So I'm going to put in a teaspoon of this baking powder. Spread it around a little bit. And these things can be simple or they can be fancy. I have some fancier ones where you take half the batter, half the oats, and process them with the liquids, and then you add them back in and you chop up dates and add some coconut and do a bunch of stuff. But this is the simple version. This is the version of, I just want to make a baked oatmeal and I want to get it in the oven really fast. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to get it in the oven really fast. So I'm going to pour this into 2 of my containers. I'm evenly dividing it. And like I said earlier, I did not put my oats and liquid in the blender because I wanted to have the whole oats today instead of the processed oats. There's nothing wrong with the cake-like recipe, but I just wanted to try it with the whole oats. Cake Shop says, I finally made it to a live broadcast. Great. Okay. And then I'm putting in, it's the equivalent of a couple tablespoons in each of these bowls, each of these baking dishes. These are like a Costco's organic blueberries. They're gigantic. They're so big. And then I've chopped up some walnuts over here, and I'm going to put just a couple tablespoons, not that much walnuts on each one. And that's it. That's how simple that is. You could put a pinch of salt in. My recipe says a pinch of salt. The recipe, I'm looking at this recipe. It's called Baked Oatmeal for One, and it's from my breakfast cookbook. And this is funny because even though it's my cookbook that I wrote, I look at it a lot because it's full of all these different recipes for oats and things. I'm going to put it in the oven, and then I'll keep talking. I'm going to put it in the oven for 30 minutes. I'll check it at 25. Oops, dog. Wrong place. Hit the right button. I'm going to check it at 25 minutes because, sometimes you don't want it to be as baked as much as other times. And this time I'll just try it at 25 minutes. So that's the baked oatmeal for one. And now that the weather's getting colder, it's kind of nice to have some warm dishes like that. And so it's a good way to use up blueberries. Like if you have a big container of blueberries and you've been using them for a few days and you see that you still have some, but you don't feel like eating a bowl of raw blueberries on cereal or raw oats, then the baked oatmeal is kind of a good comfort food. And it's almost like a dessert. So remember, you could put a half a banana or a whole banana in with that, mash it up. That gives it a little bit more sweetness, a little different texture, but it's not necessary. So in the meantime, while that's cooking, I wasn't going to do this originally, but then I started thinking, I need to do something with all these raspberries other than just eat a bowl of raspberries. So I decided to make raspberry crisp, and I'll be making that while the baked oatmeal is going. And then maybe the baked oatmeal will be done while I'm still talking because I might talk about some other stuff. I'm just going live because I feel like it. And my plan on going live on this platform was to not make it too complicated, meaning my plan is to make things that I'm already going to be making. So, for example, I was already going to be making baked oatmeal this morning. I planned this before I went for my walk. I've already been for my hour walk with Yuki. Yuki, maybe he'll come and see us, where I'm trying to train him and walk at the same time. It's kind of exhausting because he's a puppy. He's 10 months old and he's kind of crazy. So it's like a big exercise thing to take him for a walk. So I've already done that. And then I was thinking this morning, what am I going to make for breakfast? And this is day 15 of my 21-day challenge, where I've been trying to follow Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen, which, the easy, I have some handouts I made from my retreat so you could see real fast. The Daily Dozen is on my, handy dandy handout. Beans, berries, fruits, cruciferous vegetables, greens, other vegetables, flax seeds, nuts, spices, whole grains, beverages, and exercise. This is my plan, has been my plan for the last 2 weeks, to only eat the things on here and stay away from processed food. Even processed vegan food is not that healthy. And mainly to get away from doing the things that keep me from staying on track with where I want to be. And where I want to be is about 10 pounds lighter than where I'm at now, truthfully. So how am I ever going to get there if I'm doing my usual kind of up and down thing, which is do really well and eat all my daily dozen foods for 3 or 4 days, and then someone invites me out to lunch and I eat the vegan burger, which is a vegan burger, but it's been, there's some oil in there and, there's a bun. And so, no, it's not on the Daily Dozen. It's really not going to help me get to my goal. So I'm working on my Daily Dozen every day. And one of the best ways for me to do it is to always have some healthy things to eat, like a healthy breakfast. So my raspberry crisp, I've got the baked blueberry oatmeal in the oven right now. The raspberry crisp is for my husband, and I'm going to rinse off these raspberries. I always do that. It's a very last minute. because once you rinse the raspberries, they start wilting. They're no good. Once they get wilted and watery, they're just not really anything you want. They're just not good. So I'm going to put the wet raspberries in here. It doesn't matter because we were going to get them wet anyway. But you can't wash them and leave them sitting around because that's not good. So my original raspberry crisp recipe is for a much bigger portion. It's for like a big casserole dish. But because I don't have that many raspberries, I have maybe 2.5 cups. I'm going to make half the recipe. I have a much more modest size casserole dish. This is probably a 10-inch, but it's kind of shallow. It doesn't hold as much. And I'll spread it out because knowing my husband, he likes things to be extra, extra crispy. So that's how we'll make it. We'll make it shallow and it will cook faster, but it'll be the oatmeal topping will be a little crispy. So with the raspberry crisp, that's more of a dessert, although you can eat it for breakfast. I always think of it more as a dessert. We're going to put our raspberries and we're going to put maybe, let's say about 4 medjool dates chopped up. And I keep those in the refrigerator to the last minute too, because they will get so soft, it's hard to chop them up. So I'm just going to take out the pit, always take out the pit. I'm sure everybody knows that. But when I first started using dates, I really didn't know that. And I made the mistake of putting whole dates in the blender with my fruit and stuff. You want to talk about bad. Date scenes do not blend. It was terrible. They did kind of get ground up, but ground date seeds do not taste good. Ground date pits are not something you want to be eating. I guarantee you that's not good. If anyone has any questions, I can see your comments really well. And I can talk and cook at the same time. That was my whole purpose of doing the lives, was so that I could connect with you and I could cook and talk and tell you about the things that are going on, about, the plant-based lifestyle that I follow and why and what I eat and what I cook and how to make it easier. Not just easier, but how to make it taste better. Because a lot of times people are eating plant-based things and not really enjoying them very much. They're eating them and they're saying, oh, this is so hard to stick to. The food is not very good. How was your conference from Dorothy? It was great. I had a retreat here, half a day, as part of my friend's. She had the large retreat at another location. And then for part of the time, the group came over here. They came here from 9 in the morning and they stayed until almost 2 in the afternoon, I believe. I thought it was going to be till 1, but things take longer. And what I did in my kitchen here that you see me cooking in, this is like a classroom. You can't really tell, but it's a huge room. And it has chairs for a lot of people. And it has everything that my other kitchen in the around the corner in my house has. So, they were just here. They listened to me talk about the plant-based lifestyle, and then they got to cook. And they also got to sample a ton of my food. If you've seen my other posts, you'll see that I made a lot of things for them. We're going to put in a tablespoon of cornstarch. Let's see, half a tablespoon. I'm making half the recipe. So half a tablespoon of cornstarch. It was a lot of work, though. You can just imagine that after I got up at 5 a.m., and I'm just going to sprinkle it so that it doesn't go in one clump. Makes it a lot easier to mix it up if you don't put it all in one place. And then a teaspoon of vanilla. I was up at 5 a.m. and I worked on my retreat stuff until 6 p.m. because of cleanup and all that stuff. There's a lot more to do. Let's see, I'm going to use about half a teaspoon of vanilla. And if you want to see this recipe another time on another recorded thing, it's on my YouTube channel too. Oh, good, Chris, I need to make up a topping. And it wasn't successful, too dry and tasteless. Okay. Well, hopefully you'll like my version of it. So I put cornstarch, a half a tablespoon, and some vanilla. And then I'm going to put maple syrup or date syrup. I'm making this for my husband. And my husband loves maple syrup more than he likes date syrup. So for him, I'm going to put about 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. and that will make him happy. He'll like that. Oh, wait, I put the maple syrup in with the wrong thing. Great. The maple syrup's supposed to go in with the oat topping. Well, don't do what I did and put the maple syrup in with the right thing. But since it's for my husband and he's a maple syrup lover, I'll just add some more in with the oats, and that will make him very happy. Okay, so this was just supposed to be the vanilla, the raspberry, the cornstarch, and some lemon. Duh, here's my lemon. I don't have a whole lemon. I just have some lemon wedges left from my retreat, so I'm just going to squeeze those in, a couple of those. We don't really need a lot, but that gives it a good taste. Just a couple tablespoons of fresh lemon juice. Now, to make it more concentrated, you could use lemon zest, but I only have slices, so I can't really put zest in here. Okay, so the bottom layer is just going to be raspberries, lemon zest, dates, lemon juice or lemon zest, dates, and cornstarch. And I did put some maple syrup in there, which I probably shouldn't have, but it's not going to really make a big difference. And like I said, it's going to be kind of shallow because this is for my husband and he likes things really crispy. I'm going to spread the dates around. They'll give it a nice sweetness. But if you have a deeper dish, a deeper casserole dish, and you have double this amount, it will be a lot thicker. But, this is for him, and this is going to work out fine. So the next thing is we have to make our oat topping. So with this one, we're going to use about 3/4 of a cup of rolled oats. I keep my rolled oats in these containers in the pantry, and that works out really well. It keeps them nice and fresh. Hi, Lori. Okay, any other questions? I've had a couple, but not very many. And I'm going to make 3/4 of a cup of oat. That's 1/2. Half of a half is 4. So 3/4, it doesn't have to be exact on this kind of thing. So I've got my oats in here. And then we're going to add some walnuts. Then I have some walnuts already cut up from my last day, but I think I need a few more. That's not quite enough. I'd like to have maybe another tablespoon or 2. Okay. More questions, comments? I had a good time at the retreat. It made me think maybe I should start doing them again. I was doing them for quite a while, and they were 8-hour retreats. And I kind of got burnt out because they were, even though it was 8 hours for the participants, for me, it was like a 20-hour day. And by the time I got up super early and did all the stuff and, had 13 or 14 people over here, it was a long day. And I remember the last time I had one, my husband and I looked at one another and said, why are we doing this? Let's not do this anymore. Okay, so I'm going to add a little cinnamon. So I haven't really had one until this one. So what I learned is having a retreat that only lasts for 4 hours is a lot easier than having that lasts for 8 hours. So that made me think I'll do a different version. This is half a teaspoon of cinnamon. I'll do a different version. And then we're going to put some tahini and then a little bit of maple syrup in the topping. And somebody said that they didn't have a good success with their crisp because it was really dry. And I think the tahini, and I'm going to use half a tablespoon of tahini. The tahini and the maple syrup on the oats gives it that texture that you're looking for, because in a real fruit crisp, the topping has butter in it, right? And the butter makes it all crumbly. Ramen noodle recipe. Ramen noodles are made from egg noodles. A lot of times there's egg in ramen noodles, so you have to be careful. You have to find a ramen noodle that doesn't have eggs in it. And I think there are some around. And then, the base has to be a veggie base. But yes, I've made ramen noodles before, and I can definitely put that on my list of things to make live. Okay, and then I'm going to put some more maple syrup. I was supposed to put 3 tablespoons of maple syrup in this part, or a tablespoon and a half, because it's half the recipe. So I'm going to put about a tablespoon of maple syrup in this part. Even though I put some in the other part, it's not going to hurt anything. In fact, like I said, it's for my husband, and he likes things really sweet. So this will only make it better for him. So it's got the tahini, maple syrup, oats, cinnamon, and this is a place where you could put more lemon zest, but I don't have any lemon zest, so I'll put a little more lemon juice. I'm interested in a virtual workshop. Well, I've never done the retreats virtually, but that's certainly something I could do. They tend to be more geared toward, I'm going to write down the request for right here, sort of ramen noodles, so I won't forget. The retreats are really intended for people that don't have a lot of experience with the plant-based cooking and lifestyle. So my goal was to get people here in my environment, where I have gardens, herb gardens, vegetable garden. I have my house set up with, you can't really see everything, but I can turn my camera around a little bit. I have a whole station area set up to make my smoothies. And I have a lot of things set up in my house to make it easy for me to be successful. I have my pantry is full of plant-based food, freezer, refrigerator. And so, people see that and they also get to sample the breakfast foods, and I'll make like 7 or 8 or 12, depending on how many people are coming, different kinds of breakfast foods. And so people get to sample all these different breakfast dishes and they enjoy them and they get to taste the food. So that was a main reason to do the retreat in person. It looks like our oatmeal is coming along good. Okay. It still has 8 more minutes, so I think we'll make it in time to actually taste some. Okay, so then the crisp. All right. But yeah, I'll work on a recipe for the ramen noodles. Anybody else have anything you want to see me make? Okay, so with the raspberry crisp, now we're just taking this topping. Remember, it's oats, walnuts, some cinnamon, and what else is in here? Oh, the tahini. Remember, the tahini is just enough to give it that texture so it's not going to be dry, because somebody said they made it crisp and it was super dry. Well, the reason it was probably dry is because if you just put dry oats on top of fruit and cook it in the oven, you're just going to have dried oats on fruit. It's not going to be that good. But what we'll have here, I'm just getting this excess oatmeal off of here. What we're going to have here is we're going to have a really nice textured topping, and it's very shallow. So this is all going to get very fast. It's going to cook. It's going to get bubbly. The top is going to be brown, and it's going to be really good. And my recipe is 350 for 30 minutes, but it's going to take a lot less time than 30 minutes because it's not deep. It's a half recipe. So I'm going to check it in probably 20 minutes, and it'll probably be ready. So that's the raspberry crisp. And I have the baked oatmeal for 2. My usual recipe is baked oatmeal for 1, but I made 2 of them because I had so many blueberries. So that one is going to be ready in about 6 minutes. So in the meantime, there are other oatmeal recipes that I make all the time. I make a baked oatmeal with apples, and you get the idea. You basically take whatever fruit you want, whether it's apples, berries, peaches, and you mix them with something to make them sweet. A lot of people use bananas, or you can use my favorite, which is the date syrup. I use that for a lot of stuff. I'm trying to stay away from any kind of sugar just because, the date syrup has a little more nutrients. And then another favorite that I've made a million times, I make it at the retreats, is almond joy baked oatmeal. let's see, Denise said I tried to add peanut butter, but it was thick and didn't mix in well enough. Yeah, the tahini is a lot thinner and you don't use very much of it. So I think it's just enough to moisten the oats, but it doesn't really stick to everything. It kind of dissolves. So almond joy baked oatmeal, that is a guilty pleasure. That one has some coconut, almonds, vegan chocolate chips, and almond butter or peanut butter. I use almond butter for almond joy, but it's the coconut, almonds, and everything else that are good. Are any of your cookbooks in ebook format? Yeah, this one comes in an ebook or a cookbook. In fact, I only have 2 books that are in actual book form. That's this plant-based breakfast and the plant-based Japanese. The other 10 or 11, however many there are all available as ebooks at my website, which is chef-julia.com. So if you're interested, I'll put, in fact, I think I can write that on here right now. Chef. And when you go to my website, be sure and go to the shop section. Okay, there we go. Okay, so my website is on there. Go to the shop section, and in the shop section, it has a section for ebooks. And there's a bunch of them. And you just click on the link and buy whichever one. There's the breakfast one, plant-based basics. One of the ones I use a lot for myself lately. I think this is the most recent one that I've written. It's called the 21-Day Challenge Meal Plan. And I use this one a lot because it gives a weekly menu. So right now, I looked at it this morning, in fact, and said, okay, I'm really sticking with my 21-day challenge. And this book was intended for that. What am I going to have this week for breakfast? And every day I have, smoothie greens, berry overnight oats, savory steel cut oatmeal, which I love, mung bean egg omelet on toast, chocolate oatmeal, steel cut porridge with berries, and then grits, greens, and oat sausage. Well, I want to make my oat sausage again. It all disappeared at the retreat, so I don't have any left, and I need some more. So, another thing on here, chocolate oatmeal is really easy to make, and I made it hot or cold. With the cold version, you can just take almond milk or soy milk, mix it with oatmeal and a little cacao powder, and just mix it up, and you can put some chopped chocolate on top of it. And it's really good. It has a nice chocolatey flavor. But then if you want the chocolate to be melty, you just warm it up in the microwave or, whatever, and on stovetop. You don't have to use a microwave. And you just make it real melty and delicious. So that's another thing I really like to make is chocolate oatmeal. And then, my ebook's full of pancakes, waffles, and, just any kind of breakfast thing. Oh, another thing that I like to make is steel cut oats. This is a chocolate version of steel cut oats. So I took the cooked steel cut oats and topped them with peanut butter and chocolate. That's a really delicious kind of a decadent breakfast. So anyway, when I'm looking for ideas, even though this is stuff that I make every day, it's just easy for me. I just look in my cookbook or ebook, and I've got all my ideas written down, and I've saved them in one place. So that really helps me. And my smoothies, of course, are in here. I'd forgotten about this chocolate smoothie by adding cacao powder. I may make this morning. Why not? Okay, well, let's check on our blueberry baked oatmeal, and I'll take one out so we can see it. I think it's probably as good as we need it to be right now. So I'm going to call it done. And I'll leave the other one in for a minute, and we'll just check this one. Okay. I need the message up there. Okay, so you can see that. So we're in for. So how can we tell if this is done? First of all, it looks really good. Use this right. You can tell it's not jiggly. So that's one way to tell that it's not moving around. And then the other way is we can sample it. So anyone else have any questions? We can look in the middle and see how it looks. It still looks a little wet. So I probably could continue cooking it for a few more minutes. But the part that is done is on the edges, and it's not going to look like a cake. It's just going to look like cooked oatmeal. And it has mm, a really nice texture. The oatmeal's cooked, but it's not too soft. It's not chewy. It's a little chewy, but not too chewy. And then it's nice and sweet. It has the crunchy walnuts. It's just a good bite of food. Delicious. I'm going to put it back in the oven now because the center is just a little underdone. So it does need about 5 more minutes. Even though I thought I could get 5 to 25 minutes, I'm going to put it in for 5 more minutes. Well, and it'll be fine. So it's in for 5 more minutes. Okay, well, when that comes out, you won't see this part. I'll cook the raspberry crisp. My husband will be very happy. He loves this. He'll eat a lot of it for dessert tonight. And then, and it keeps really well. Some people like to put Ninja creamy ice cream on it, like banana, the frozen banana ice cream that you can make in either your blender or the Ninja creamy goes good, or cocoa whip, which is made with coconut oil. So I don't use that, but I have used it before. If you're not strictly following the plant-based, no oil way of eating, you can use cocoa whip. It's unprocessed. I think, it doesn't have a lot of stuff in it. Better than Cool Whip. Okay, I see Jeanette's on here, Trudy. So those of you who joined now, I've been on for quite a while, and I made blueberry baked oatmeal, and I'll include the recipe beneath this post. There's a way I can go in and I can add the recipe so you'll see it beneath here, and the recipe for the raspberry crisp. So those are 2 things you can make for breakfast. And like I said earlier, I am really trying to stick with my 21-day challenge. I'm on day 15, which is to eat the daily dozen, which, grains, beans, nuts and seeds, fruits and vegetables, lots of water, exercise every day. Basically, follow the whole food plant-based way of life and stay away from things like restaurant meals that might have a lot of extra oils and fats and sugar and stuff you don't normally eat, even if they're vegan. So what I have to do if I'm going to a restaurant, and I'm really doing this in a way that will help me lose some weight and stay where I want to be, is when I go to the restaurant, I can't just say, oh, I'm just going to take the day off and have, the veggie burger with the fried potatoes and some cake for dessert and, an appetizer of grilled broccoli and oil or whatever, Not that I do that, but that's an example of what I don't do. Because in my experience doing that, if I am doing really well and lost weight, eating my, super healthy way, a couple of restaurant meals in a week will throw me right back to square one. And so it's just, you're always, I don't know if you've experienced this, let me know in the comments. It's like 1 step forward, 2 steps back. You're always starting over. And I'm just kind of sick of that. I don't want to keep starting over. I want to get to where I want to be and stay there, and not get close to where I want to be and then go back up and down. So anyway, if you're feeling kind of like that, then start making some things that taste really good that are healthy for you. And I think these different versions of oatmeal with fresh berries, to me, they're delicious. And they can be eaten as a breakfast or dessert or snack. And I just enjoy them. So thanks for watching me today. And I hope that you will make some of the things that I make. Unless there are any other questions or anything, I'm going to end this and hop on here and write up the recipes so that you'll have these included with the video. So bye-bye, everybody. Thanks.